Hello everybody, welcome back to the Malbeefance channel. This is turn 30 for Strategic Command American Civil War. Um, let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. I'm sure everybody will catch up on what's happening. Alright, so as usual, our occupation of Fort Pulaski is blocking the port of Savannah, so nothing's getting through there. Union develops cavalry tactics, level 2. About time. There's the ledger for the up and coming turn. So now at the end of last turn, I forgot to do any spending. So in between episodes, I went ahead and I bought 2 cavalry divisions. So that's really all that was missed. Alright, so here in what is left of the battle for Virginia, it looks like the computer is trying to extract those few units that are still in the Petersburg area. And doesn't look like anything's going on down there in and around Nolens. Anything else going on? I'd love to be able to get back here and get at all those Confederate generals. And the lone remaining cavalry or Confederate unit in the New Mexico campaign is taking supply damage. All right, Confederate diplomats abandon all hope of European intervention as they sell the cotton stockpile. That is a decision point that the Confederate player, and the computer for that matter, can make anywhere over the course of the game. What winds up happening is the Confederates sell the cotton stockpile in order to get production points, but it also removes the diplomatic advantage of having it. So the end result in the game is that, yeah, the Confederate gets money, but they also lose diplomatic points with the European powers. Okay, so the usual bushwhackers and everything. George Custer and Elizabeth Bacon are married in Monroe, Michigan. And we all know what happens to General Custer. Alright, so here's our activity summary for the previous turn. Just mostly blockade information. Alright, cavalry division spotted near Warrenton. And here are our replacements for this turn. Now, I'd really like to go ahead and add more for shifting down here. So let me back up a second. Do I have? No, I don't have a new headquarters unit yet. So let me have a quick look here. Decide where I want to add these reinforcements. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and expand our Atlantic coastline forces. Because I'm going to be getting, what is it, General Sherman or General Sheridan. One of those guys is going to be coming out here in a couple of turns. And I want to deploy them to help out with taking the Atlantic coast ports. So let's try and have the forces already available for them. The one exception is going to be 11th Corps. I am going to add 11th Corps to the Army of the Cumberland in order to help with the drive on Atlanta. Alright, so that takes care of our reinforcements. Now let's move on to naval operations. Anybody else up there? Nope. Anybody here need supply? Yeah, a bunch of them. Alright, so let me pull 2 out. He can hang on one more turn. I have a feeling my monitors are just going to need more firepower in order to be able to take on Fort Augustine. Alright, so over here, Fort Jefferson, just keep rotating those guys. Now over here in the Gulf, he's at 6, he's got to come in for supply. How's about these guys? Alright, so we'll play our little New Orleans game here. Alright, and that's going to take care of the naval stuff, except for the river stuff. And that is going to be it for the far western theater, except for getting my guys out of here. Alright, so out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I'm just going to leave this one regiment. I've never seen the computer able to bring any more Confederate forces into Texas after they've been pushed out. I'm not sure if that's possible. But also a question that was brought up in earlier episode is about using these Union forces to push into Texas, and I can't do it. This is all this territory right here is Comanche territory, and it's neutral. Okay, the Texas doesn't start until over here. So unfortunately, I cannot push through Comanche territory in order to get at Texas. I mean, I can't even declare war on the Comanche and do it that way. The option isn't available. So we're going to have to take the long way around. Alright, so that is it for the Far West Theater. So now here in the West, we've been able to push back. Let me see if I can grab myself a few more cities here, cutting off General Van Dorn's and General Waddy's forces up in the Indian territories here. Alright, so nobody's in Tishomingo. And can I get to Boggy Depot? Nope. Alright, so do we go after Honey Springs? Yeah, let's do it. Alright, looks like we're going to have a hard time pushing him out of there. He says as the very next attack pushes him out of there. Alright, so that grabs Honey Springs. Awesome. Can Hancock get up there? Yes, he can. Good. That means I didn't have to use the I didn't have to use that cavalry unit, so I can reinforce them. Alright, so that is going to do it for the Far West Theater. And so hopefully we can grab that capital right there. I do believe... Yeah, that's the Chickasaw capital, okay. And that'll end up knocking them out of the war. Hopefully. Alright, so we got all this frozen ground. Alright, now can we get Little Rock? Yep. Oh, he doesn't take any damage. Awesome. But he can't move into the town. Can anybody get in there? Yes. Do what I can to prevent these two divisions from escaping. Try use zone of control to keep them from getting too far. Ooh, I was lucky. There could have been somebody in Monroe. That wouldn't have been fun. Alright, so now that we've got Little Rock, let me go ahead and get caught up on my riverboats. No need in rushing the riverboats down. I'm stuck here at Greenville anyway. I can't get them past that point just yet. Alright, so now General Grant's forces. Can he rail move? Yes, he can. How far can I get him? Yeah, let's go ahead and have him help out General Sherman. Alright, so now I have enough movement points to get into Meridian. So on probably next turn they'll move somebody in there to defend the town, unfortunately. Let's send him over this way so he can take Greenville. No, let me take that back. Alright, so General Grant's forces are getting ever closer to Jackson and Vicksburg. General Sherman's forces are right up on Meridian. So let's see if we can take Decatur. Alright, there we go. Another big victory. Can you get any further? Yes, he can. That way I can get Pope into the city. Alright. Alright, keep pushing towards Chattanooga with General Meade's forces. Oh, can I catch him? Nope. Nuts. He's going to get to fight another day. All right, but we're right up against Chattanooga now, so that's good. So next turn we'll be able to take that. And finally, can we finally get rid of that cavalry unit? No, he didn't even do any damage. Jeez. How's he for supply? He's down to 1 point. Alright, well if I have to I can use 11th Corps to help peel that cavalry out of there. Alright, so that's going to take care of Central Theater. Not bad. And we got Little Rock, we got Decatur. We're on the verge of taking Meridian. Alright, so alright, it's snowing over here by Withville. That's going to affect things. So instead of trying to attack, I'll just move up, get into position. I have a feeling there is a unit in Dansville. Yep, there we go. Keep using these brigades to clear out southern Virginia. Alright, so we're going to have to move Banks closer to the front. And I'm not going to be able to do it by rail. So he's going to have to hoof it. Block that crossroads in case the computer decides it wants to get it back. Oh, look at that. 4 to 10. I got to take those odds. If I can one-shot an entire corps. Sweet. Awesome. Alright, let's see if we can clear out the last of the Petersburg defenders. Oh, that's one. Don't think I've got enough to get the other two. Nope. Oh, and I can't get him out of there. That was a bad call. Well, at least this way the artillery can fire at either one of those. Creating a traffic jam here. Alright, well, let me move Thomas closer anyway. Even though it pulls him out of Vicksburg still, though, I need to get more command and control coverage down here. Alright, so that is going to do it. We got Petersburg completely surrounded. taking out that one infantry corps, one-shotting them. That was awesome. I'm sure that's going to hurt whatever plans the computer had for up here. All right, so that brings us to North Carolina, and I'm trying to get New Bern back. Let's go ahead and do that just in case there's more backing him up coming down here to try and cut our line of communication. So since I'm not going to use that Marine unit, I'll take the opportunity to excuse me, upgrade him. And now these guys. Get them underway. Now, unfortunately, Jon Snow Division is not close enough to a port, so I'll move them in there for now. And then all three of these will be able to come down together next turn. All right. I think that is it for, yep, that's going to be it for operational movement and combat. So let's have a look at research. Anything I want to do there? Speed up cavalry tactics. All right. It's pretty late in the game, I think. Probably not going to have any effect, but I'll go ahead and I'll spend on skirmishers. And that maxes out my research. So let me get that last cavalry division. And yeah, I still got enough left for a corps. Alright, so there's 13th Corps. And I could buy a frigate, but I really don't think I need it, so we'll go ahead and bank the rest. That is going to do it for this turn. So let's go ahead and advance. We got enough time. We'll do one more turn this episode. Confederate spirit falls due to loss of Little Rock. And Union celebrates capture of Little Rock. One more state capital under Union control. Celebrating the capture of Decatur also. And European support for the Confederacy drops due to the loss of New Bern and due to the loss of Little Rock. Bushwhackers in Missouri. That is a serious nuisance because you can't do anything about it. Same thing with the disruption in Kentucky. And occupation of Fort Pulaski blocks Savannah Harbor. Uh-oh. Itasca is hit by rough seas. Did they take any damage? Doesn't look like it. Okay, Union gets heavy mortars, level 2. And what is this? Progress in core organization up to 39%. Amphibious warfare level 5. Logistics level 5. That maxes those two out. That's our ledger for next turn. So I get another Marine Corps division with amphibious operations reaching technology level 5. Alright. Anything. General Waddy looked like he was thinking of doing something. So yeah, they trained forces. They used rail to get forces into Meridian. And there are the Confederate river ironclads again. It's not a really good idea attacking out of Tulsa. I mean, it's only these 3 units and the general, I think. Personally, I just think their efforts would be better spent in defense. Oh, wasn't expecting that. That cavalry division's going to take Washington, North Carolina. It's going to cut our overland communications. So yeah, so these two divisions are out of supply from us taking Little Rock. Mexican imperialists move into Zacatecas. Mexican liberals recapture Villahermosa and the state of Tabasco. Confederate partisans cause disruption in Tennessee. Now those I can actually do something about. If I had garrison units up there, that would stop the Tennessee ones. Fort Pulaski block in Savannah again. There is our raider or blockade report. All right, activity summary. Zacatecas. All right, so there he is. There's General Sheridan. So I want to deploy him first. And now, do I want to add these guys to the Atlantic coast, or do I want to help out in the center? Actually, you know what? A thought just occurred to me. General Pope and General Meade are going to split up. I'm going to have Meade push for Atlanta while Pope pushes for Montgomery. And depending on how things shape up out here along the Vicksburg-Jackson Meridian line, I might have Sherman also help with taking Montgomery. So with that idea in mind, I'm going to have the two remaining reinforcements deploy here in Cairo so that I can go ahead and add them to Pope and Sheridan. Or excuse me, Sherman. Alright, let's get those gunboats in for repairs. And before I get distracted any further with land operations, let's go ahead and handle naval operations. So here in the Gulf, everything is still pretty quiet. Same thing down here at Fort Jefferson, just constantly rotating my blockaders there. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the monitors all the way back to the north. Hopefully we'll make a breakthrough in either ironclads or naval weapons, and I'll have them in position to get upgraded real quick. And then they're not blocking everybody down here trying to use Port Beaufort. And speaking of Beaufort, I can't get anybody into Washington. Alright, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to divert these guys. And I'll have them move south to take Washington back. Because that cavalry unit, I have a feeling they're going to take the town. Alright, so next up, more reinforcements heading down south. So yeah, now the naval operations that I'm doing now, a number of players will do this stuff early on. And I mean, I understand the strategy being that if they go ahead, they occupy these ports real quick because they're just defended by forts, or there's like the occasional infantry brigade, and then you go ahead and you just block off because you've occupied the port, and you just leave a garrison there, and it blocks all of the supplies coming in. As I've mentioned before, my experience with the game, I need to put more effort into my land warfare, or the computer is going to make me, make me pay for that mistake. So they got a mountain division in there. I don't know if he was a reinforcement that appeared there, or doesn't look like they marched him in. All right, so let's go ahead and actually take Petersburg, because that is going to cut off all of their supplies. All right, now let's see what damage we can do here. All right, one more down. So reinforce them for the moment. This cavalry division is in a bad spot. Get him out of there. Try and get these units across the James River. All right, anything else going on here around Petersburg and Richmond? Doesn't look like it. All right, so moving over to General Banks. Oh, nope, he fired, so I can't upgrade him. All right, let me take a chance. That did not work. And that probably was not a good idea. But I was worried about what that cavalry division might do. So at least now they got to repair it, or if they try and advance or attack anything, they'll be under strength. Alright, so let's see if we can get Withville. Alright, we were able to chase him out of there. Want to get that infantry brigade back on the road. Just makes it easier to resupply. Alright, can I finally get this cavalry division? Not exactly. Alright, hopefully he won't be able to reinforce himself all the way up, and I'll be able to take him out next turn, and then I can have these guys come down to Tazewell and Huntsville. So moving on to the Army of the Cumberland and the Central Theater. Alright, I am not going to wait for the artillery. I am going to try and take Chattanooga this turn. And there we go. Awesome. So since I didn't use the artillery, I'll go ahead and upgrade him. I'll just reinforce General Pope's immediate forces, since I need him to wait for his reinforcements to catch up. Alright, so getting back to General Sherman. Can he... Oh, he can one-shot him. Okay, almost. Alright, but that gives us Meridian. So that's good. Upgrade the mortars. Take Greenville. Alright, how close can we get to Jackson? Not very. But scouts can see in it. There's no defenders at the moment. Probably will not stay that way. Let him take Lake Providence. Get him down to Monroe. Alright, try and catch up all these gunboats. So now, have you seen in previous episodes, I've been able to use the gunboats to do damage to some units that are close enough to the rivers, but then sometimes they don't do any damage at all. I guess it just depends on circumstances. But what I'm trying to do with the riverboats is simply block for the Confederate gunboats and riverboats. That's really what they're mostly doing right now. Alright, so that takes care of General Grant's forces. Now we get back over here to General Halleck. And mopping up around Little Rock. And that is that. Let's go ahead and connect that overland communication route. Okay, so everybody that didn't attack, their supplies are too low for me to do anything, so let me get Halleck into... Can I get him? No, I can't get him into the town. Urgh. Alright, so they're going to have to play a little bit of catch up there. Alright, so moving on to the Western Theater. Do I got anybody coming this way? Not yet. Alright, so let's look at the campaign on Tulsa. Alright, that's one more unit down. Alright, I'm going to move Riley's Rangers in here deliberately in the hopes that the computer will make the mistake of having these two cavalry units attack them instead of attempting to reinforce. Can anybody else reach the general? Awesome. Alright, with General Waddy taken out, that is going to cause some problems with fighting spirit and command and coordination, because I don't think... Because General Magruder is still out here somewhere, but I have a feeling he's down here in Texas. I don't think he's up here in the Indian Territories. With the loss of Van Dorn and Waddy, there are no more Confederate generals up here in the Indian Territories as far as I know. Alright, that's going to do it for the Western Theater. Now, my evacuation attempt over here in far west. Get him up there to Fort Defiance. Faster I get these guys out of Arizona, the less opportunity the Apache have of attacking them. And that's going to do it for the Far West Theater. So I think that is it. Yep. Alright, so research real quick. So a lot of these are now maxing out. So I'll do a little overspending. I don't like doing overspending. I know I've mentioned that before. It's because you don't get a full refund. Alright, so those are the only ones that I'm really concerned about. So they're all maxed out. Alright, so what can we buy? Let's go ahead and get that Marines. Hang on a second. Second, fourth, first. Third Marine should be out there somewhere. Oh, I did it again. Always forget. Got to upgrade first before you name the unit. Okay, can I get another core on the board? Do I have enough? Not really. Just level 1 infantry equipment. Alright, well, at least they're in the pipeline. Alright, so that is going to do it for this turn. That is also going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you made it this far, as always, please remember to leave a like, drop a comment, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. We're up to 68 whole subscribers. So let's see if we can push that to 75. That'd be nice. And if you know somebody that likes this content, go ahead and share an episode with them. See if we can bring them on board. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.